Hello, everybody. Oh, people are joining up. Let's see what's gonna happen. Hi, everyone. We're waiting. I'm gonna be doing an interview today, live for all of you. I am Eric Schmalenberger. Some of you might recognize me from House of Yes Christmas show and Blunderland and Extra Burlesque and Sex Ed and other such things. And today, as soon as she gets on here, we're going to be having a conversation with Dr. Lea Lis, who is a psychiatrist and sex educator, about shameless sex education, which I think is going to be a very interesting little chat. Let's see. Oh, there you are. Ready. I'm ready. Here we go. We're going live. This is my first time ever doing this. Did that work? There we go.
Eric, last time I saw you, you were wearing a condom.
Well, tonight we're doing a raw interview.
I think it was foreshadowing by wearing a whole condom for COVID protection.
It really, really was. For those of you just joining in, I'm Eric Schmalenberger, and I'm sitting here with Dr. Lea Lis, and we're going to be talking about her new book, No Shame. Real talk with your kids about sex, self-confidence, healthy relationships.
Right on.
I met Lea just over a year ago, I think. I was doing a show at House of Yes called Sex Education, where I played a used condom, and afterwards we had a chat, and now we're gonna have a more in-depth chat. How are you doing today, Lea?
I'm great. I have always felt such kinship for House of Yes because the consent policies are so amazing. I even started donating every month. And I'm so sorry that right now all you performers are having to put yourself on hiatus. Also, writing articles about the consent policies, House of Yes, and I think they should be rolled out to fraternities and sororities across this country. And I want you to explain it to everybody, but I also just want to say thank you.
Yeah, consent is an important part of House of Yes. We are always growing the policy there, and it's a learning process. It started with initiatives on our invitations, and then explaining what consent was, and then it became something that was explained at the door, and now at certain events that are a little bit more sensual in nature, we have consenticorns who go around and try and make people feel more comfortable. And I think that this is so interesting because it's become such a part of nightlife conversation, creating safer spaces and places where people know that they have the ability to express themselves. And if something does go wrong, that they feel safe to call it out, that they feel safe to bring it to the attention of the security guard. And we work so closely with our security guards to make it an okay experience, and make people feel safer and sexier. And that just leads right into what you are working on. You have this great new book. I just read it as a fascinating. Are you going to show it to us?
There it is.
And it's fascinating. I was just saying to you, it not only teaches parents how to approach sexual education, which is, I imagine, a uneasy ground to walk on, but it also teaches them to have less shame when talking to their kids. And I think that why don't you just tell us a little bit about the book for starters?
Well, I wrote the book because I got so tired of hearing my teenagers talk about how they didn't understand their boundaries, they knew nothing about pleasure and sex, that they were having sex but not enjoying it. They were being forced into situations, not necessarily rape, but just forced into situations that they were very unhappy about because they were unable to communicate.
Right. Don't have the language for something. It's difficult to say, to have full consent.
Exactly. And not only that, but like, you know, I worked at St. Vincent's. So all my, you know, I worked with a lot of gay, lesbian, transgender, queer patients over the years. And man, I mean, the rate of sexual abuse and assault in that population was kind of astounding.
Yeah.
So I just said, well, I mean, like they were just raised in a way that they just never got any validation, any education. I mean, even the basic stuff like, you know, people don't even think that if, you know, their child is gay, that they might be having anal sex, and how to educate their children to stay safe. It's just like the whole thing from soup to nuts. I was like, we just need to just like clean up, wipe it
Yeah.
down, you know, wipe the blackboard, and
Right.
we're going to start over. And that's why I wrote the book.
So why do you, my sex education was completely incomplete. It was I have straight parents, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a straight individual.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I think when I eventually at one point brought anal sex up to my mother, she just looked at me and said, "Oh, I don't like it." And that was that. Sex ed, my sitting in a car with me. We went on a road trip, and he played cassette tapes. So he didn't even have a talk with me. He just let these cassette tapes talk to me. And, you know, I didn't learn about my own sexuality until a much older age. And it was through my own trial and error. And reading your book, I really am almost jealous of and look forward to a time period when people do get a proper education. So what is it, how do you educate parents on how to, like, what are some of the important steps that parents can take?
Well, I mean, listen, you know, gay teens are 8.4 times more likely to attempt suicide, and 5.9 times more likely to report high levels of depression, and nearly 1/5 of students that are physically assaulted because of their sexual orientation. So it's like horrifying, you
Yeah.
know, the stats on this. Um, and I'm always a big fan of, you know, whether you suspect you might have an out of the box child, like in terms of the orientation or not, you still have to really educate them to the many ways that people love. And,
Yeah.
you know, so, you know, I always say, like, to my children, like, someday when you find your prince or princess, or someday when you get married to your partner, and I really try to keep like the gender out of the language.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm perfect, because, you know, it's moved so much even beyond that with, like, you know, all the different kinds of genders now. But I do my best to try to say, you know, whatever you decide, I'm here for you, but still imparting my values. Like, I would actually love to see my children get married, because that's an important part of my family's culture. But who they marry is up to them. You know, I would love to see them have, you know, give me grandchildren. So I can still at the same time import my values about, like, this is family, and family is loyal, but also say, love who you want. And it's that mix. And also say, like, listen, there, you know, you don't have to be rush into anything, but there are a lot of different ways people have sex. And, you know, you're not going to learn what you need from pornography. And, you know, let me help you think about, you know, what, you know, how you're going to get what you need and want out of a relationship. And so this is really, it's not just sex education. This book is in its heart about relationships. How do you have a healthy and safe and happy relationship, no matter what you choose, you know,
And
who
you,
you choose.
how
How do you?
I'm girl, she's almost 40, and she's still trying. She's still trying. I actually looked at some of your YouTube videos, and you have some amazing, like, there's the book, and then there's YouTube videos. There was one that I really loved. What was it called? How to Avoid Unwanted Hookups While Drinking. I think I do. Because, you know, I think that my entire life has been a series of beautiful mistakes that I've learned from. So So that's maybe for a more advanced drinking aged student. How early do you think one should start talking about sexuality with one's
Children?
children? Yes.
As soon as they can talk. So, I really argue for this comprehensive approach to teaching about sexuality, which should be done by the parents. Do not leave it up to the school, especially if you live in, Virginia or, some place that has, terrible sex education curriculums. So it's like, 2, 3, 4, you start talking about your body, or like how you label the body parts, like, anus, penis, vagina, vulva. Vulva's on the outside, people, if you didn't know. The vagina's on the inside. And you kind of just do that because, you're going to reduce your child's risk of sexual assault by an order of magnitude if they know how to call their body parts correctly. It scares off predators. And then, you move up the line and say, you can touch your body, but only do it when you're alone, and it feels good, and you should get to know your body and touch your body.
Yeah.
And I will give you privacy. Never shame that. And then you move up to, like, nobody is allowed to touch your privates. You name what those are. And, your nipples, your vulva, until you're ready when you're older as a teenager.
Right.
Or if a doctor's doing it. And you'd be very explicit, like, and if anyone does, you come tell me immediately, and you tell them, that's my body. Please don't touch me like that. I don't like it. And you, like, practice it. Like, so when it happens, they're not frozen, they're like, no, please don't touch me like that. That's my body.
Right.
My was my, like, proud moment when my daughter came up to me. A boy in school tried to touch my buttocks, and I told him that was my body, mommy, my body. I was like, yeah, girl, you got this. And I think that's really, really great. Like, I'm so proud. And then it's like, you get into high school, it's like, rehearse the lines, like, rehearse what they're supposed to say. Like, don't leave them confused about the language, or is it okay? Am I being rude? It's like, give them the language to say, like, this is going to be a waist up date. Like, that's all we're going to do. It's like, from here on up, like, it's just like, know exactly, like, what you're comfortable with, lay it out up front, and then communicate that. I mean, like, the BDSM community is really good at that stuff, but, has been largely, not very vociferous about bringing that kind of language about boundaries to, down the line to, even teenagers, because, they think, oh, this is 18 and up. But I'm like, no, this language is so great. They communicate so intensely about their boundaries. Like, everybody needs to learn how to communicate about their boundaries.
So this is an interesting thing to me. So we have the book, which teaches a lot of this, but how do you think because I do think that all of this is very important. How do you spread the word through to parents? Because, like you said, you can't always depend on schools, but in many cases you can't depend on parents. There are so many parents who are incredibly intimidated by this language, or don't talk to their kids, who leave everything up to the school. So, like, what is a school's responsibility? How do we bring some of this into schools, and how do we spread this to parents is my curiosity, besides maybe assigning the book as, like, something that needs to be picked up upon giving birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
The reality is, the only way to make cultural change is to do what we're doing. We're doing it right now. Like, House of Yes is making a cultural change with their consent accords. Like, we all are a part of changing culture. I am out here, basically doing these podcasts, Instagram Live, like, day in and day out, because I don't make any money off of it. I'm doing it because I am an instrument of change. You are an instrument of change. Yeah. The reality is, I can't assign this as reading, when babies are born. I wish I could, but, we are all doing it. And I think House of Yes is also doing it in a beautiful way. And so that's why I'm really proud of us both right now.
Amazing. I'm curious, can I ask you what your experience with your sex education was when you were younger?
Oh, sure. You can ask that. I had that kind of don't ask, don't tell parents,
Yeah.
Who they never really told me what to do, but they never told me what not to do. And So I just kind of figured it out with trial and error. However, they were incredibly supportive of any partner, or I wouldn't say part of the time, choices I brought home, loves, like whoever I brought home, they were like, great. So, let
Yeah.
me cook dinner. So they were always like very supportive. I mean, they obviously knew my mom took me to get, birth control. She obviously knew, but, she never wanted to talk about it, which I think is in some way a shame. And we had this kind of renaissance, her and I, when my father died and she started dating. And that's when we like finally actually started talking about
Yeah.
sex, and I think it was a missed opportunity. However, it informed, how I became me. And I was just generally like a pretty good kid. So I didn't do anything that crazy. However, I learned a lot more about myself later. Thank goodness.
There you go. There you go.